Greetings, kindred. I hope you're all doing well. Wow, where do I start? Well, first of all, I want to start with I did an interview recently with Rio Lamond, and I will be putting the link to that video in the description box below. But I do want to amend something that I said on that show about Neptune. So on the show I said that Neptune will enter into his own sign of Pisces in February 2022. And in a way that is correct, but on the 7th of April he actually has put his toe into Pisces, his own sign. And the reason why I say he's put his toe in is because he retrogrades back into Aquarius. So it's quite a while ago actually, I was looking at the transits and I'd actually forgotten that part because I was more looking at when Neptune moves into Pisces and actually stays in Pisces. So, but it's still relevant. I mean, Neptune did enter into Pisces on the 7th of April. And I have noticed in my own circles there's been a lot of emotions coming up to the surface, and Neptune in Pisces is actually a very beautiful energy if it's left to just do what it wants, But we've got to remember we're living in a system, we're living in the real world, and we haven't got time to really go off into fantasy world or Neptune and Pisces on the whole, they have no really good understanding of boundaries, so when emotions do come up, it can be a little bit uncontrollable, especially when we got, a T-square aimed right towards Neptune, and that's with Mars, the goddess Juno, who's in Ophiuchus still, and the south node and the north node. So the nodes are really making a square to Neptune. Although Neptune is now back into the Grand Cross I was talking about, this is like very faintly he's kind of back there with the goddess Pallas, who's in Aquarius. So in a way it's like we're all really coming to terms with the reality of life. But are we strong enough or equipped enough to deal with it on a more logical level? Are we disciplined enough to, take control of the visualizations, of the dreams, of the fantasies? And I'm not saying this is for everybody, but it's a very, very dense and heavy energy that's being emitted onto our earth right now. And, it takes a long time for Neptune to orbit the sun. But, Neptune being in his own sign gives Neptune a hell of a lot of power. And even though it's a beautiful and creative energy, it's also a boundless, fanatical, and, when it comes to addictions, it can be a very destructive energy as well. Especially since Neptune is in sextile to Pluto, who's, can be a very manipulative energy in itself, Pluto. So a lot of people will say, the Neptune's sextile Pluto is like building the new heaven on earth. And it's not that that's impossible. It's just that how many people are really in that awareness right now? Because that's what counts at the end of the day. How many of us are going to take up the arms to make this world a better place? Or are we just going to get lost in, lost in emotion, lost in a sense where we may feel like there's a loss of self-power, especially because the goddess Vesta is involved in this Grand Cross. Like I said, the goddess Vesta is in Leo. So true self-empowerment has to come from a spiritual source. But in Leo, it can come from more an egocentric source. And that's what we got to watch out for, because egos are going to be triggered at this time, because sometimes the emotions are just too much, too deep. Neptune, he starts to retrograde back into Aquarius. Now, he won't actually retrograde back into Aquarius until September, but his retrograde starts in June. So all retrograde planets really are us going inwards. So it's not so much a global, well, it will be a global thing that we all go inwards. It will be, globally. Because I think so many of us are just so exhausted right now. We're exhausted with the division that's being created in our world. And it's not just division with one thing, it's a division over a number of things. Where we're all being manipulated against each other, And this creates fear. It creates confusion. It creates, well, I'm not really a biblical person, but I really do get a Judas vibe. And I just feel that there's so many people that are just so emotional. And there's people out there that when they're emotional, they're quite free with their emotions. But then they have to be aware of becoming the victim in life, Because Neptune in Pisces, it can bring out that quality initially. Because remember, we're not used to this energy in our lifetime. So this is another new energy coming in that we have to familiarise ourselves with. And we need to take control of that energy and empower ourselves with it and not let it take us over. Because if Neptune has his way, he will surround us with just like energy of, he would just take us off the planet in fantasy land, building castles in the sky. And Neptune is the ruler of the first house. Pisces is the ruler of the first house in 13 Star Sign Astrology, or True Lifetime Sky Astrology. So this is all about projection. It's all about image. So what we see isn't always what we get. Because Neptune is very absorbing of environmental conditions. So every day he can come with a different energy. But I am feeling a lot of exhaustion going on right now. Like we're not free to be creative. We're not free to really express ourselves without fear. So I just wanted to cover a bit about Neptune. I'm going to go deeper into this. Actually, I'm me and my old spa, Howard Conti from the Siderealist website. I think most of you will remember him or know him already. Well, we've got together recently. We've been in touch and over, since our mentor passed away in 2019. But as you all know, both my parents have passed as well since then. So it's been a very emotional time for me and a very pressured time for me as well, So, we've come together recently and we're going to start doing some live videos about the new transits coming up Howard is actually, he's very much into geometria, I can't pronounce, a form of numerology basically. And it's very interesting in what he's got to say. And also, he does understand 13 Star Sign Astrology. So we're going to be doing a live soon on the lunar eclipse and solar eclipse that are coming up very soon. But we're also going to do a few videos beyond that on, the next upcoming eclipses and the transits of the planets, like Neptune moving into Pisces and Pluto moving into Capricorn, and other planets that are going to be making big shifts over the next 3 years. So like I said, even though Neptune has transited into Pisces, it really is a toe in the water. It really is for us to get a sense of what's to come next year and beyond that. So if we can empower ourselves from a spiritual point of view, which, the opportunity is definitely there for us to do it, then, we can make good use of the Neptunian energy. But there is a danger with the Neptunian energy that we can just go into la-la land and avoid facing the reality, because Neptune in Pisces, it's another sign of an awakening, of a great awakening. But are we strong enough to face that awakening? Many of us are, but maybe some of us will need guidance. So I don't normally start with a transit. I normally start with the moon, but I did feel this was important, and I did want to apologise for forgetting about this particular transit this year. I'm just really looking at the larger picture, really. I've got Virgo in the 13th house, so I'm not really about detail. I'm just about the bigger picture, really. So let's get into the new moon. So our new moon will begin in Pisces on the 12th of April at 3:30 in the GMT time zone, at 12:30 in the AEDT time zone, and on the 11th of April at 22:30 in the EDT time zone. So both our moon and sun will be at 30 degrees in Pisces, conjunct Venus, Mercury and the goddess Ceres. So once again we have a little stellium in Pisces, just as we did at the full moon last month. So I do feel like this new moon, and even on the lead up to the new moon, probably from the 7th of April, since Neptune did enter into Pisces, there's been, very emotional. There's been a lot of old wounds surfacing. But, it's all connected to the past. With the South Node in trine at 4 degrees in Ophiuchus, it's for us to release old desires, This is definitely a releasing of the old so we can begin anew. The South Node in Ophiuchus is very, very ancient. And 4 is the number of our foundation. So maybe some of us have had our foundations rocked a bit, Like I said, Pisces is very nebulous, it's very boundless. But with Saturn in his own sign of Capricorn, Saturn is also in his own power. And Saturn, the Saturn energy is very, very strong. Pluto's always a strong, dominating energy anyway. But Saturn has, with all the conjunctions last year, connected with Saturn. And the fact that, we're in the age of Pisces, And, we're at 8 degrees in Pisces, and 8 is the number of Saturn. There's this conflicting energy going on with the corporate establishment, structural, disciplined energy versus the creative, spiritual, off-planet energies of Neptune. Fortunately, Neptune and Saturn are not in any aspect to each other, but they are kind of dominating the chart at the moment. But Pisces is very strong because of the amount of planets we've got in Pisces right now. But like I said, they're all in trine to the South Node in Ophiuchus. So once we deal with our shadow, the shadow of Neptune's energy, the shadow of the moon, the shadow of Venus. Once we clear out the old wounds and get our head around things, then we can use Saturn's disciplined energy to really be creative in a constructive way. So Mars is in sextile to our Sun and Moon. And, that is giving us the opportunity to get active. Because it's all about being active. Because if we get in our heads, then that's it for the day. But, Mars in Taurus can tend to be a little bit lazy. Taurus is more about the pleasures and the luxuries in life. Even though he's a very earthbound sign, he's a slow mover. So we may have to give ourselves a kick. I had to give myself a kick to do this today. So we may find that we're struggling, to really get going on things, you know what I mean? So the Black Moon Lilith is at 18 degrees in Aries at the moment, and she's been pretty quiet lately. She's just been doing her transits, so I'm not making any connections with the other planets. So, it's good that she's taken a step back and given us a breather, because she will be active again very soon. So, and that's what I like about her energy. She comes in, she puts the pressure on, and then she steps back and leaves us to get our heads around it or get our hearts around it. The heart energy is very strong at the moment. It's all about the heart. It's all about dreams. It's all about creative visualization. So the good thing about Neptune being in Pisces is it does give us the power to manifest. But we've got to be realistic with our manifestations. There's a lot going on in our world. And like I said earlier, with all the division and the uproars and everyone's beginning to feel quite exhausted, and I think all these transits in Pisces at the moment is just putting a lot of pressure on people out there. And all I can say is, if you're feeling emotional right now, then release it. Let it flow. Overcome it. It's so important that we get it right now, because next year, when Neptune does move into Pisces, for the long haul, we've really got to be in our self-power, because it's a beautiful energy once we get a grip on our own inner strength. So we have the Sun moving into Aries on the 18th of April. Now, around about 2010, from my own calculations, the Sun was originally rising at 9 degrees in Pisces on the March equinox. So it was around about 2010 that the Sun actually moved into 8 degrees Pisces on the March equinox. So 2010 was definitely an ending of a cycle. And, going down, because it's a countdown in the age as we move towards the age of Aquarius, we're going like 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So, I've mentioned before that we're just touching the aura of Aquarius now. Now, the 8th layer of the aura is the crystalline energy, because there's 7 layers to an aura. And the outer layer is the electric magnetic energy. That's our signal, that's our antenna. So we're in Aquarius's antenna right now. So that's why a lot of people have been kind of waking up and, the buzz, it's like a very buzzy energy. And it's also, number 8 actually is the number of Saturn. Like I said, it's a crystalline energy. I see it as the crystalline energy, the outer layer of the aura. So, and also Neptune moved into the sign of Aquarius around about the same time. Well, actually, I think it was 2011. And, excuse that motorbike going past. And like I said before, that's when, mental health started to go off the scale, because a lot of people were waking up, but they weren't really brought up in an environment to understand what they were experiencing. So getting to the point of the sun being in Aries at 18 on the 18th of April instead of the 19th, well, in the GMT time zone for sure, is because the sun has shifted back a degree. So for those born before 2010, the sign of Aries would have started on the 19th of April. But for those born after 2010, the sun was in Aries on the 18th of April. So that was another thing I got confused with on Rio's show, because I knew there was a shift, so that's why I couldn't remember the dates. So what I am going to do actually, because I've got the old dates up for before 2010, for those born before 2010, but I will put up another chart for the new dates for those born after 2010. So I know it's very confusing, but I do work with true astronomy. I do work with a true lifetime sky. So, the sky is always moving and shifting. And, my astrology will shift with that. It's not set in stone. The true lifetime astrology, it's not a fixed map. It's a moving, it's a flow. So I will stick up, actually Waterberg was very kind to send me an updated ephemeris for the sun's transits, and I will be using those transits for those born after 2010. So I'm going to leave it there, and I'm a little bit out of sync today. It's the anniversary, the first year anniversary of my mother's passing, and so it's been a little bit emotional for me this weekend. I don't often talk about my private stuff, but yeah, I'm there with you, because at the end of the day, I'm human. We're all human, but we're all powerful, powerful entities in our own right. So I would suggest meditation. And I think those that are familiar with meditation, it's okay, but I do feel that in meditation there will be a lot of drifting. So I really do feel, again, it's all about the voice, singing, chanting, humming. We've got to keep ourselves grounded at this time. But for those that are kind of on that spiritual path, for the channelers, it's going to be powerful, powerful visualizations, powerful, powerful dreams. But we may not always like what we see, because of the state of the world at the moment, because the state humanity is in at the moment. So let's all rise above it, people, because Pluto is giving us the option to do that as well, this new moon. to rise above it, to get in our self-power, and to follow our own instincts and not the agenda that's being forced upon us. Sending you all peace and much, much love.